So this is our celebration of the 4th. You know, when Spirit asked me to take David to Boston a year ago, and I was very open to that. I thought, that's great. We're going to stand on that freedom trail, because I actually knew in my heart that Boston was a hotbed for our liberty for years before it all broke loose. Those guys were putting little fires under the British for a long time. And they were just this side of tyranny for a long time, building and building and building energy. So I thought, when I stand on that freedom trail, I'm going to feel this collective agreement to birth this country. That's not what I found. You know, what I found was, as we walked and went from place to place, I found a series of choices. This happened here, that happened here. Nobody really knew what they were creating. They had no idea. If these people who were a part of that original group looked at our country today, they'd be like, whoa, we did good. They had no idea. All they knew was that in that moment they were making choices that they needed from their souls. They needed to see something different. They needed to expand into a different space. And different groups did it for different reasons, but it all came to a crescendo. And it all created in the aftermath where we live today. And it was all born of the individual desires to choose. I want the right to choose. And that's what our country was based on. People making choices. Isn't that fabulous?
Yes.
I love it. I love our country. I love to be able to come home after we visited another culture and realize that there is no idea or concept that I have to first agree with before I then can choose something. And the world is changing. Our world is really changing to become more individually based, more freedom of choice within the people. But how cool that we have that honor right here, right now, to choose. Everybody take a breath. All right, freedom to choose. We have this great freedom, but do we really use it? Are we really aware that we are actually choosing all the time? We are beings created to create, and how we create is through choice. So we are choosing all the time. Are we choosing out of what we see? Most of us do. We choose out of what's already been created. I'll have one of those, and those. But do we have to choose out of what we see? Can we not choose out of infinite possibilities? Can we not choose out of something we can dream? Do you see? All right. Selecting the possibilities. That's selecting from the possibilities is what choice is. So our possibilities can be infinite, or they can be what is visible. How many of you, when you go looking for something, can't find what you want, so you select based on what you do find? Okay? All right, we do that. Yet, is it possible that if you hold in your desire, that desire might find you? Do you see? Selecting from the possibilities. So, it was 85 or 86, and I was going through a identity crisis, one of my many. And this was with my very first metaphysical minister, and we were counseling, and I was, just crying. I was broken in my heart. I knew I was in the wrong place, and I didn't know what to do. And I just said, I love God with all my heart, so I just want to work for God. I want to work for God. And I was in a situation where I was working, and there was just no support in my world. And the minister looked at me and she said, well, Cindy, maybe what you're meant to do has not yet been created. Well, don't you know, I stopped dead in my tracks. And I went, what are you saying? Of course, I was a baby to metaphysics. You mean there could be more than what there is today on the earth plane? What are you saying? And it was a shock to my entire system. I might need to do something that isn't even here yet. Holy mackerel. That's crazy. But honestly, at the time, I'd never heard of Reiki. I'd never heard of Rohan. I'd never heard of the Aquarian Gospel. I was not on a ministerial path. And everything that I came to be, obviously, was not in my energy at that time. But think about the possibility, my heart needed to work for God. That's all I knew. That's all I knew. So, when we choose, when we make any choice, it starts us on a journey toward that choice. And she gave me permission to choose something that I could not find. I even went to Unity Village and said, God, do you want me to be a minister here? I'll take my baby and we'll move up here and I'll become your minister here. It was very clear. No, I don't want you here. Thwarted once again, still cannot see, but continued the journey, began the journey to where I did not know. So, every choice affects our consciousness. Every choice affects our consciousness. Mine was a big one. We make small choices all the time, don't we? What am I going to have for dinner? What am I going to do today? Some choices that we make, as a matter of fact, 90% of the choices that we make are designed to maintain the level of consciousness in which we currently live. Do you realize that? Don't rock my boat. This is what I do, this is what I do. And then we'll make those little choices where we go, no, I think I want a new experience. I'm going to choose something different. I'm going to have olive instead of something else I normally eat. I'm going to try this experience. I'm going to go ride a bike. You know, anything that's small. And what that does is wake us up. It wakes us up just a little bit to say, oh, there is a world outside of my consciousness. You all know those times. And you know when you get the little urge to have that little experience, do you realize that most of you fight it?
Yes.
I don't want to wake up. I don't want to wake up. No, just give me the regular old. Give me what I always do. Don't wake me up. But then there are moments when your soul begins to cry like mine, and you say, I have got to choose something different. And I don't know what I'm doing, but I've got to choose it. And those are the moments when you begin a journey that takes you from shifting from one level of consciousness to another. If you want something and you cannot see it, you can be guaranteed you're not at the level to receive it. So the journey begins for you to move. I choose this. I'm here. I need to start my journey to walk up so that I can get into that level of consciousness. Does that make sense to you? Okay. Choosing allows us to move from one level of consciousness to another, and the only way to move from one level of consciousness to another is through choice. It's the only way. We think magically we'll wake up and we'll be in another level of consciousness. We won't. We have to choose and then we'll transfer. Choose and shift. Okay. As I said, you know, for me it was a big deal. I was choosing something I could not see. And as I was meditating this week, because I don't know if y'all are aware, we are in the throes of another shift in consciousness as a church. And I was doing some meditation, and Spirit showed me this vision to remind me. So I had a vision of being underground, you know, like you would think a miner would be underground. And there was people with me. And they said, remember, Cindy, remember. And I saw myself digging up a shaft. And I'm like up this shaft. And I can see I'm 3/4 of the way to the surface. But I can't see that in the shaft. And they're showing me pulling rocks and rocks and rocks and rocks. And all I feel is the same thing I've always felt. And it's arduous and it's hard. And I can look back and go, God, all I do is dig rocks. And I don't feel any different. And I'm just pulling those rocks. And they said, do you see how you feel when you're shifting consciousness? It feels exactly the same as it did a minute ago. Because you can't see how close you are to the light. But every rock you pull is getting you closer and closer. Do you see? And then they showed me when you move that one rock that gives you that one glimmer and you can see the light. And I said, oh my God, I see the light. I'm so excited. I can see the light. You know, I'm excited. And then what do you do next? You pull more rocks. Because you're not in the light. And you keep pulling those rocks and you can become so downhearted in the transitional tunnel. The tunnel that transits from one level of consciousness to the next. it can seem so arduous, like I'm making no headway. And they said, and of course, are they giving this to me arbitrarily because I'm not going through this experience? No. They gave me this because I am going through this experience. And they said, remember, even though you cannot see it, you're getting closer to the light. And every rock you move is lifting you. You are changing. You're getting closer. Hold your focus. Do not look back. Do not look around. Do not say nothing has changed. Something has changed. You're 3/4 of the way there. There has been change. You cannot measure it yet. You're close. Focus on the light and don't become downhearted. So I breathed that in and I said, okay, yay me. And then they said, try to have a new relationship with every rock. You want newness. You want newness. Oh, look, this rock is shaped differently than the one I just threw back there. Oh, this one has a different color. And begin to relate with this experience as if you are in motion and as if it is new. You know, every rock does look different. Isn't that an interesting idea? Yeah. Begin in the transitional tunnel to look as if you are experiencing something new even though it looks so familiar. And to hold the focus on the light that you are going to. The light you are going to. Every day when I was in corporate, I learned to keep my desk clean in case God told me I did not have to go back. And every Monday, do I have to go back in this week, God? Yes, you do. And 1 week, after many years, after I was doing seminary half-time and stuff, no, you don't. 1 week it happened. Do you see? Keep your eye focused on the goal. So, shifting consciousness requires you to focus. The space around you will not look any different until you break through. So you have to remember your choice. It won't look any different until you break through. Everybody breathe that in. All right. Then I was reminded of a journey that Patrick and I went on. I want to share with you. So it was in 1996, we had the opportunity to go to Egypt. That in itself was a whole God story. It's a beautiful story. But I shall take you to one aspect of it. We, in our journey, were visiting the Giza Plateau, and our guide just said, y'all take off, come back when you're ready. Okay, good. So we went into the Great Pyramid. We made our way up to the King's Chamber, which is very steep, inclined, beautiful, open area. And he and I began immediately to meditate, sit down. We would lay in the king's sarcophagus, and, you know, it just felt the energy. And we were up there, I don't know how long, but people would make the trek up, take pictures, and go back down. And so we had the opportunity of being alone in the king's chamber for quite a while. A trek, people would come up, click, click, they'd be gone. We'd just be there meditating. It was a fabulous experience. And so when we finally came down, the guards who had been watching us and watching the people come in, up and down met us right at the plateau. And they came to us and they said, meditate. You know, they didn't speak much English. Meditate. Yes, because they saw us meditating. And this one guard said, would you like to go here? And when I saw the opening, I knew it wasn't mine to do. It's like I did a quick check. It's like, no, Cindy, you don't go. And Patrick went, oh, yes, I'm going. So the guard began to lead him down into they call it the subterranean chamber. And this is 1996. The chamber was, let me just give you the exact dimensions. It was 3 feet 6 inches wide, and it was 3 feet 11 inches high. And it went down 344 feet at an angle. So Patrick's, the guard had a flashlight, and Patrick's going down on his haunches because he cannot stand up. So he's going on this incline 344 feet. And the guide leads him all the way to the bottom. And at the bottom, of course, it's pitch black. But the guide is there, and Patrick begins to meditate. In the mystery school legend of the Great Pyramid, this is the space where you face your fears. in this subterranean chamber. So Patrick's meditating, and the guide says, I'm going up. Do you want to stay down here? And Patrick said, yes, I'm staying. And the guide takes his light and goes back up the 344 feet. And Patrick is in this chamber, pitch black. And he's meditating, and he's fine. He's feeling God, he's getting into the energy, he's touching the rocks, he's fine. And he's up there quite a while. And I see the guard come up, and I said, where's Patrick? He goes, okay, he's okay. So I went, God, and I heard very clearly, this is his destiny. So I knew whatever happened was between God and Patrick. So I continued to wait, and he was down there for a while, and this is what happened. He could see from where he was a pin light, probably a quarter size, in the distance. That's all I could see. So when he decided to come back up, he got on his haunches, and he started to crawl up toward the light. And as he was making his way, he heard a voice that said to him, you're going to die. And it put such fear in his body. His heart started pounding, and he took the thought into every cell. You're going to die. And then he said, I am not. I'm not going to die. Took a breath, calmed his heart, and continued to crawl up 344 feet. And when he made it to the top, he was fine. Are you okay? I'm great. I'm fine. But I want you to hear the story, and I share it with you for a reason. When we are in that transitional tunnel, moving from one level of consciousness to another, how often does the feeling of where we have left seek to pull us back? You cannot go there. You cannot go where you're going. You cannot reach what you're seeking to reach. Get back into this space where you have been comfortable and where you live with your fears in harmony. How often do we have those voices come to us right in the middle? And that's when we have to turn our heart to the light. Look at the light. Look at the light. Even if it's a pinpoint, quarter-size light. And remember your choice of what do you want to feel. And he went down there with an intention. He went down there to heal, to transform, to breathe, to take in all the goodness that place could offer him. He went down there to touch the life force there. And he brought back that with him. He brought back that in his consciousness. So when we're beginning, everybody take a breath. Okay. This is what they said. If you start feeling what is behind you when you are in transition from one level up to another, it will stop you. If you start feeling what is in front of you, you will stay in motion. How many of you are in transition tunnels right now? That's a lot of people. It's a lot of people. You know? We are, as a church, in a transition tunnel. As a church, we're in a transition tunnel. As a church, most of you have been really, really good. Anytime I go, oh, you just slapped me. Look at the light, Cindy. We're doing good, you know? And I appreciate that. I do. We have to focus on what we chose and then keep the energy of the feeling of that foremost in our emotions. Foremost in our emotions. There was a, and you know in those moments, that's your test. You realize that. When the voice comes to you, that's your test. Do you really want to move on, or do you really want to go back? Remember the crabs in a bucket? Has anybody been crabbing? I went crabbing as a child in Texas. It's a lot of fun. And I remember the first time I went crabbing, you scoop them up. You just scoop them up, put them in a bucket. And I said, well, don't you need to put a lid on the bucket? And they said, no, no, no. They won't ever crawl out, because as they're crawling out, the one below pulls them down. Just keep, no, 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 you're not getting out of here. And they don't crawl out. So we need to rise above, and we need to keep moving. We need to be above being pulled back. There was a story in the aquarium that I tell all the time because I love it. It's the story of Ruth. Do you guys just love me telling Ruth's story? I'll paraphrase it. It's chapter 77. So Ruth is a sister to Mary and Martha, and she just loves Jesus Christ with all her heart and soul. She loves the Christ. So Jesus is visiting Mary and Martha, and Ruth is there. And she starts talking to Jesus, says, I need to tell you, my husband is a terror. He was a good Jewish man. And she said, I've been talking to him about the Christ, and he hates you. And I told him, I'm not living with you, you bad man. And so I packed my bags and I left. And Jesus said, Ruth, take a breath. You brought this on yourself. He said, your husband is a pious man, and what he does because he feels he loves God in that way. If you would simply live what you teach, go back and live what you teach, you're teaching love, you're teaching harmony, you're teaching the Christ. Just live it and quit teaching and quit judging and quit preaching. See what happens. And she went back. In her story, and she went back, and in her story, she just is quiet. She loves her husband. She loves the Christ. She does what she knows she needs to do. And in a matter of chapters, Asher, her husband, is converted. And we talk about that all the time, just being patient and loving one another. But we don't talk about this. When she goes back, where is Ruth? But in her transition tunnel. When she went bold to Jesus and said, I'm sticking up for you, dude, and I left that guy because he doesn't like you, had she really embodied the Christ? No, she had not. She had started her journey to embody the Christ, and she looked back at her husband and started focusing on him and started giving him hell because he's bad. Do you see? She let her whole choice and journey be derailed by focusing what she had left behind. And now the journey was not about her journey anymore. It was about what she left behind. So by her going home, it put her back in her transitional space. I'm going to look at the Christ. That's what I want to be. I want to follow that. And what did she have to do? One rock at a time. Okay, I'm digging my way out. I'm digging my way to the consciousness I want to be. One rock at a time. And by her doing that, she was able to feel the Christ in her heart, to feel the love. She changed. Do y'all hear that? Mm-hmm. She changed. How often when we make our choice do we look at those obstacles and we curse them to the max? You obstacle, you? Get out of my way. Instead of us doing our own work. And then the obstacles will go. One step at a time. Freedom of choice. Isn't it great that we get to choose? Isn't it great that we live in a country where we're protected by laws to choose? We get to choose by law. Everybody. And isn't it wonderful we are in a church where there is encouragement of any choice you want? Any choice? Metaphysically, we believe as long as if you do good, you're blessing all of us. So if it's good for you to do something crazy, do it. It's going to help us all. Going to help us all. We want everyone to choose their desires, to rise to that space. So in choosing, if you choose the desires of your heart and choose from maybe not what you can see, but what can be. Choose from what can be. Move toward that desire and look at every moment as a little fraction of newness, even though it may still feel the same as it did. Little bit of newness every day. Hold the focus on the dream. And then stay in the feeling of the dream. Don't be pulled back to where you were. Don't let a voice scare you into not believing in your possibilities. Keep your eye, your thought, and your emotions focused. And what is that basic triangle you are taught the minute you hit metaphysics? Thought and feelings manifest. Basic. Thought and feelings manifest. So your idea, your emotions become that which you desire. Pretty basic, right? Okay. So, when we're shifting consciousness, we will all go through that transitional tunnel. Like it or not, sorry. Why? Because we're shifting who we are. We're not shifting our outer, we're shifting our inner. And when we hit to the surface, what has changed? Everything is the correct answer. Everything changes. Not just your desire, but who you are. Everything changes. Isn't it so awesome we get to choose? Aren't you just so inspired?
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. All right, let's go within. God, 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 we love you so. I thank you so that we live in this beautiful world where we can truly be your divine creative children. Everyone breathe. Take a deep breath. And see a beautiful light come over you, where you are. And I want you to just check where you are in consciousness. If you are in a space of transition from one level of consciousness to another, I want you to find yourself in that space and look at your transition tunnel. And pull back and look at the surface and see how far you are. And look at the surface and feel once again the great joy of your arrival. How you will feel when you are there. And I want you to breathe and bring that feeling into your heart. And I want you to go back to wherever you might be in that transitional time. And bless the walls around you. Bless that which is in front of you. And fill this space with joy. I know I learn, and I know I need to become different. But I now choose to fill each moment with joy. My arms are strong. My mind is clear. And this is effortless. This is effortless. And feel all of your angels now coming. Feel them breaking that ground before you, making it easier for you, making it not so hard. You will still do the work, but they have lightened the density. Breathe and let the vision go, and let your focus just come back to your heart. And I want you to feel where you are now, in this moment. Breathe in that great love of the Christ. And let that love begin to pour out into your world. Pouring out into your world. Father, Mother God, we thank you that we are safe in your heart. We thank you that each thing we choose, all growth, is like child's play. We thank you that you are always guiding, uplifting, and prospering us in every moment. The journey of life is to know oneself. The path is in our heart. And we thank you, God, that we stand on that path now. Feel your oneness with the universe. Feel the peace. And feel your love for God. I love you, God. Take a breath. And you can gently open your eyes. I hope you feel inspired. I hope you are open to your destiny. And I hope you are gentle with yourself. It's just one more rock. That's all. Just move it. It's okay. And trust me, in my season time, in this lifetime, you'll get there. I can promise you. I can promise you that. You'll get there. Say it.
Yeah.